hit your mic, and we're streaming in the back, right?
I beg your pardon.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
Okay. I'd like to call to order the RTA Organizational Service and Performance Monitoring Committee. Teresa, will you call the roll?
Mayor Biassiata, Ms. Moss.
Here.
Mr. Sleesman.
Here.
Mayor Weiss.
Here.
And Ms. Welch.
Here.
You have 4 committee members present.
Thank you, Teresa. We have one item on our agenda. It's a negotiated procurement on the annual track geometry testing services for the next 5 years. Aaron, will it be Aaron or Sean going first? Okay. Aaron Hale will be giving us an introduction to what's going on.
All right, good morning, Ms. Moss, committee members, and members of the board. My name is Aaron Hale. I am the supervisor of track and structures, and I am here to present about the track geometry car testing. All right, this is the vehicle that does the track geometry testing. There's one vehicle operator who sits up front, and then there is one equipment operator who sits in the back to actually interpret all the readings and make sure the test is going well. The history is that this testing has been performed since 2007, and it tests all of our 60 miles of track. It normally takes about a week and a half for the vehicle to go over the entire system. And again, that is done annually. The testing is used to identify deviations from the GCRTA inspections and manual standards. And with this test, it helps us to be proactive in our maintenance and prevents accidents and delays. It also helps us to make data-driven decisions by analyzing the data and see where we need to focus our maintenance efforts. This, again, is an automated vehicle-based inspection, and it uses 3,000 pounds of lateral and vertical force. The testing includes track gauge, alignment, profile, and cross-level and curvature. And again, this is an annual inspection that goes over our entire system and a contract period for 5 years. Now we'll hand it over to Sean for the procurement overview.
Thank you, Aaron. Good morning, Ms. Moss, committee members, members of the board. My name is Sean Becker. I'm a program contract manager in procurement, and I was responsible for soliciting this contract. So this contract is a sole source with Holland LP, and per Ohio Revised Code, section 306.43H2, competitive procedures are not required when the purchase consists of goods or services or any combination thereof, and after reasonable inquiry, the board or any officer or employee the board designates finds that only one source of supply is reasonably available. So with this contract, there are some other vendors that can provide track geometry. However, Holland LP is the only known vendor that can provide this 3,000 pound force vertical and lateral on the track. So why that's crucial is it simulates the actual train moving down the track, and it's taking that load the entire time it's taking that testing. So nobody else in the industry can actually perform that. And it's a very safety critical requirement. So procurement requested a proposal on August 21st. The proposal was received on August 24th. There was a 0% DBE goal assigned to this project due to the specialized equipment and service. And the proposal was reviewed by representatives of procurement and power and light department. So a little bit about Holland LP's experience. They have over 900 employees operating throughout 36 countries. They have over 25 years of track geometry testing expertise. They're a leader in progressive and comprehensive rail solutions for over 85 years. And they're a premier provider of track geometry measurement and track maintenance throughout North America. They measure according to FRA's 49 CFR 213, which is for track safety standards. They have custom track geometry channels and defect that meet our needs. They have extensive experience serving Class 1, short line, and transit rail systems, such as ourselves. and they have technical service support 24 hours a day. And their transit experience. So GCRTA, as Aaron mentioned, since 2007, Bay Area Rapid Transit, Brightline, BNSF Railway, Canadian National Railroad, Chicago Transit Authority, Conrail, Dallas Area Rapid Transit, Denver Transit, Massachusetts Bay Transit Authority, Southeastern Pennsylvania Transportation Authority, and WATCO companies, among many others. So here's a breakdown throughout that 5 years. So it goes everywhere from 78,000 through the first year, at the end of this year, through 89,600. And this is in line with our historical pricing. It's been about a 3% increase every year. So we might have been expecting a little bit more of an increase with inflation and COVID and how that has, but they maintain that 3% increase per year. So we're right in line with where we have been. So for a total amount of $420,500. And just to reiterate, Aaron mentioned that it does the entire system. That's the entire system every year. So it's not throughout the 5 years. It's every year they're going through the entire 60 miles of track, making sure it's up to par with our inspection standards. So recommendation, staff requests that the Organizational Services and Performance Monitoring Committee recommend to the Board of Trustees the award for track geometry testing services to Holland LP in a negotiated contract amount not to exceed $420,500 for the period of 5 years. And at this point, we'd be happy to entertain any questions you may have.
I would note in preparation when I was talking to staff, one of the things they said is if you went back 10 years ago, we used to do this every year. And since it was and then it was less than what we would vote on as a board. So one good thing is it's getting extra oversight. And then the other thing is it allows, when we have a 5-year contract, to control the timing of these tests and making sure that we're on the schedule. So I think that's a really good thing that it's been consolidated.
And that's correct. It really helps all the transit agencies that utilize Holland. They have to get in the queue for scheduling, so it really helps us go ahead of the curve to get scheduled out, because we don't want to get passed up because their vehicles in some other transit agency.
So are there any questions? Go ahead, Mayor Weiss.
Just a question, this may be more for Aaron. I just want to make sure I understand. I know we rehabilitate our tracks and then we replace the tracks. Is this process what determines that process and how often?
Yeah, so largely we do it normally towards the end of the year, so we can be proactive for planning for the following year. And it identifies where there may be deficiencies in the track. So if there is a tie replacement project that we need to do, we'll know according to our gauge readings that we get. Also, any surfacing issues that we may need to do with our tamper, it'll alert us of any immediate remedial actions that we might need to take.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah, basically it gives us the data that we might not see from a visual inspection for our entire system. So,
Are there any other questions from the committee or the rest of the board? Go ahead. No?
I was just going to ask, this has been done since 2007. What happened prior to 2007?
I have no current data of any track geometry that was done, but historically I do know we've always had track inspectors who would go out and do visual and manual inspections, but not to the extent to have this data-driven information from the testing from the vehicle.
Any other questions? Is there a motion to take this to the full board?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second? Okay, thank you. That concludes our business.
Ms. Moss, you want to ask if all are in favor?
Oh,
and
I
if there are
always
any
forget that, yes.
opposed?
Is everyone on the committee in favor of this? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That concludes our business, and we can adjourn.
thank you.
Good morning. We call the RTA Committee of the Whole, asking our Ms. Barrage if you'll read the roll.
President Lucas,
Present.
Ms. Moss,
Here.
Mayor Biassiata is not here. Mr. Joyce,
Here.
Mayor Kumar,
Here.
Ms. Mertzman,
Here.
Mr. Sleesman,
Here.
Mayor Weiss,
Here.
and Ms. Welch.
Here.
You have 8 committee members present. You have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Our first agenda is the code book update.
Good morning, Mr. President, Lucas, members of the board, and Mrs. Birdsong Terry. I am Anna Lavix. I'm Senior Counsel for Contracts, Real Estate, and Administrative Law. I am covering for Janet, as you know, in her absence. Unexpectedly, Dawn Tarka was unable to be here first thing this morning, and so please bear with me. I have not given a board presentation in 15 years, and when I last did it, we didn't have this. So I'm already getting help, and I appreciate it.
Are you sure Dawn is going to let you do this?
She was calling me at 8 a.m. I'm sure she was quite concerned as to whether I could handle it, and I said, well, I will let them know I am going to do my best to step in. So as most of you have been hearing month after month, we're here today to talk about our code book, which was codified in 1989. Periodically, we've been doing a review of that code book to bring it in line with current operations, and our code book does say that we're supposed to do that every 3 years. Today, we're here on essentially 2 provisions. The first one is to recommend removing Chapter 462 for private sector participation from the code book. It authorizes contracting with public sector companies to provide public transportation services. We do that now by way of our code book policy and the procurement policy. So since that's located elsewhere, we are recommending that that provision be removed from the code book. The second provision that we're here to discuss today, and I do have very important backup help, Steve Peganoff, our Director of Safety, and our Executive Director of Labor Relations, Scott Ferraro, here. For this policy, the safety policy, we are recommending removing a code book chapter 648.07 because it is covered substantially in the personnel policy 600.07. We are recommending amendments to that personnel policy due to changes that were approved by this board when it approved the PTASP, the Public Transportation Agency Safety Plan, late last year. So these changes to the personnel policy that we're proposing will conform the language of the personnel policy 600.07 to the PTASP. And these 2 gentlemen behind me were integral in working on the PTASP. We're also recommending that you amend Code Book Chapter 1098, which is the Commitment on Environmental Policy, due to the changes that took place within the PTASP. So your changes today will conform the language of Chapter 1098 to the PTASP. Staff requests that the Committee of the Whole recommend these provisions to the Board of Trustees for approval. Are there any questions?
All right, questions from the board? Any questions? All right.
You made it very easy on me. Thank you.
We made a motion on that, don't we? We have a motion to take this to the board.
Motion, Karen.
Second Welch.
All right. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Anybody no? Thank you very much. We will now have the I have a different order here, but we have Dr. Caver, Mr. Shipper, Raj, Mr. Garofoli, and Belinda. That's quite a group. Do you all sing? All right. I know.
I'm out.
All right, let's go.
Good morning, Reverend Lucas, members of the Committee of the Whole, leadership group, and guests. The General Manager, CEO Birdsong Terry, sent a September 7th memo to the Committee of the Whole describing the August 15th audit committee discussion on the change order authority for the rail car replacement program. Mayor Kumar and the audit committee recommended this information be presented to the committee of the whole board. The discussion included lessons learned from managing the contracts for the Euclid Corridor Improvement Project, including project delays and increased costs. To minimize the impact of change orders, it is necessary to develop a positive change order strategy, including anticipating the likely causes and risk mitigations. Let me remind you of the contract with this profile. So the board authorized this contract in April of 2023 with Siemens Mobility Incorporated. That scope included engineering, manufacturing, testing, delivering, and commissioning of 24 light rail vehicles. We'll receive manuals, training, spare parts, and special tools for the vehicles. The contract amount, approximately $164 million. Notice to proceed for the contract was issued on June 26, 2023, and there are contract options for 36 additional light rail vehicles. There is a governing internal control in place. That's the board policy for change order authority or delegation of authority. The board hereby delegates to the general manager, chief executive officer of the authority, the following responsibilities. Approve change orders on contracts in a net amount not to exceed $500,000 for contracts over $5 million. The board may, by resolution, vary these limits for particular contracts or projects. I consulted with my peers at the Calgary Transit Internal Audit Department. Calgary has purchased 260 of these light rail vehicles from Siemens Mobility over the past 4 decades. I also consulted with Hatch LTK, who provides engineering services for our project management group here at the RTA. Common reasons for change orders after discussion with all of these stakeholders. Regulatory changes could come from the Federal Transit Administration. Design changes, omissions, or alterations. Certainly unforeseen conditions during final assembly, delivery, commissioning, such as quality issues and scheduling that could not be planned for. Supply chain, material shortages, or late delivery to final assembly. Changes to budgets and schedules. Changes in technology or specifications by the GCRTA, the owner. Very common reasons for change orders. GCRTA management has a robust internal control system in place working effectively to mitigate the risk of change orders. This begins with the segregation of duties between the project management and contract administration. You just saw that evident with Sean Becker up here with Aaron Hill. They have unique roles and responsibilities. There's also a set of, as I said, governing procurement policies and procedures. There is in the contract administrator's duties in their procurement file, there is a contract administrator's audit checklist. That checklist takes them through the entire list of requirements in order to process a change order. That checklist is completed for every change order, regardless of the amount. Based upon our experience with Euclid Corridor, the Change Order Review Committee was formed. It is composed of employees from grants management, internal audit, legal affairs, the Office of Business Development, the Office of Management and Budget, and then procurement and the project office. As stated in the policies and procedures, the purpose of the Change Order Committee is to ensure strict compliance with procurement policies and applicable regulations prior to negotiation with the contractor. This is required for all change orders above $50,000 and above. In your memo, you received a package from Linda D'Angelo, our Director of Procurement. And that included a flow chart of how the change order process works, a narrative in terms of how she directs her staff. It also includes the activity log that's completed by the contract administrator, the audit log, and then the change order log, which keeps track of each change order as it accumulates towards the general manager's change order authority. And I will say that in our audit committee presentation, Mayor Kumar asked that that change order log be presented on a monthly basis, either by the Secretary Treasurer, and certainly will be included in our audit committee reports and quarterly audit reports. In addition to the management controls, and not just for this project, but to focus on this project, we will implement special internal audit procedures for all change orders. That includes a review of all quotes and invoices and all change order documents. When necessary, we'll visit the site to observe and verify, always keeping contract compliance review. We'll consult with appropriate stakeholders and resources as necessary, including internal resources and, if necessary, external resources. And then we will issue audit reports to management and the Board of Trustees on a request basis, but certainly at our audit committee and in our quarterly audit report. Our Chief Operating Officer, Flance Caver, will take the presentation from here.
Good morning, Chairman Lucas and members of the board. Again, I am Flance Caver, the Chief Operating Officer here at the Greater Cleveland RTA. As Mr. Garofoli mentioned, the board has the ability to change the $500,000 maximum change order authority for the general manager. That $500,000 is based upon about 10% of a $5 million contract. The contract that we're looking at here is approximately $164 million. And so the size of this contract and the complexity of this contract creates a need for us to have flexibility so that we can minimize construction delays and resultant costs that come with construction delays or decisions that we have to make in the creation of this rail car. As Mr. Garofoli also noted, we have had a $500,000 limit, and we used this limit in the largest program that we've done up until this rail replacement, which was the Health Line. And we found that it created several difficulties. The process became cumbersome because it created delays. And so the delay that you get is that in order to have a change order of size, we would need to come to the board committee meeting and wait for the board, the actual board meeting. So therefore, you could have delays up to a month. In this program of building a rail car, a month delay can change significantly the cost and the delay of the car getting to our city. And so as a management team, we reviewed possible options to request this board for us to request for the board to increase the change order limit for this particular project. If we were to stay consistent with about that 10%, that 10% would have yielded, in this contract, almost $16.4 million, the top line. If we were to put that in half and have a 5% contract amount that we would give the general manager for change order authority, it would have been about $8.2 million. Our team settled upon a request that we thought would allow us to both minimize the risk of construction delays and the resulting costs, but also provide the board with the ability to keep its oversight duties in place. And so what we want to do today is recommend that we use a change order authority amount of $6.5 million, which is slightly lower than 4% of the construction costs. As Mr. Garofoli noted, that We will have an extensive audit program conducted by the Internal Audit Department, and it will be providing the Board of Trustees with regular reports and its regular audit reports. Those reports come through the audit committee and then to the board as a whole. But in addition, the management team is also committed to creating processes that provide transparency as well as information necessary for the board to perform its duties and oversight. Those include a monthly update on the change order activity, which will be included in the Secretary Treasurer's report. The result of change order audit activity, which will be included in the Internal Audit Committee meeting and quarterly audit report. The results of the change order activity will also be presented in the quarterly management report. This is the report that Ms. Terry provides. And we will still keep, even though the aggregate amount of the change order authority could be $6.5 million, there will still be a change order committee review for all $50,000 and above change orders. That's the current control that we have that we learned from the Euclid Corridor program. And so with that, the staff is requesting that the Committee of the Whole recommend to the Board of Trustees the increase in change order authority on contract number 2021-125 with Siemens Mobility, Inc. for the design, manufacture, and delivery of up to 60 high-floor rail vehicles, spare part toolings, and training over a 7-year term to be set at $6.5 million. With that, Mr. President, we're available for questions.
Questions from the board? Anybody?
As presented, it seems to make sense to me. I guess I just have a couple of questions. Number one is, do we think that this is like any idea how many change orders like we're anticipating based on the Euclid Corridor? I guess what I'm making sure is that this is not a policy in search of a problem. Is it this is going to happen weekly or I mean, I know you can't predict exactly, but is this really going? Do we anticipate this happening often?
I would say that it's not our anticipation that it will happen often, but given the complexity of the program that we're dealing with, we do believe that we will get change orders. And what we want to do is to make sure we have the flexibility and agility to deal with them. And so the beauty of this is that if we do get a change order of size, it provides us $6.5 million. It is not our goal to get to the $6.5 million and come to you late. When we get to $4 million, we may come to you and ask you to reset the change order authority. But given the complexity of rail car procurements, we do expect that there will be change orders.
My concern is like we have a budget for these, and we're saying that there's going to up to $6 million. Those are not considered significant enough that it warrants board approval. So if we do that, do we have contingency on these? Like, where is all this extra money going to come from?
We do have contingency. I think that contingency amount is either 5 or 10% of the project. 10% of the project is in contingency.
Okay. And then the other concern I have is, and this is not directly concerning this, but this is going to take a lot of auditing. It's going to take a lot of oversight by procurement. Are we properly staffed? Because it seems to me your staffs are busy as it is doing it. And sometimes I know in audit, we don't even get to audit everything that we want to audit. Now we're going to have this huge project. How do we need more staff in there, or how is it that we're going to keep up and also keep up on all our other auditing?
I'll speak for the Internal Audit Department. Within our 2023 Internal Audit Plan, we accounted for person hours for this project, and we will certainly do that for the length of this project. So we're flexible in the scope of work that we could handle with the hours we budgeted.
If I can... Go ahead, Melinda.
From a procurement standpoint, Karen, Mabry Harris, you've met Mabry. He's presented on the rail car. He is 100% dedicated to the rail car program. You also had a team of Brian Moore and Casey and others that stood before you. They are all 100% focused on the rail car. As far as procurement staffing goes, I believe we're positioned properly. As far as the audit piece, it is the everyday processes. This isn't any different than what any contract administrator would do normally. As far as the amounts go in negotiating, we will follow the continued process. All I wanted to do is make sure that you got an opportunity to see all of the background work that the contract administrators are required to do to support any change order, and that goes across the board for any CA. But again, Mabry is going to have Brian as his right-hand man assisting him through the management of the project. So I am confident that we will be on board and up to speed and be able to manage this. And if it isn't, I guarantee you I'll be raising the flag and speaking to others about needing help. So.
If I could just piggyback on that. So thanks, Melinda. You were reading my mind. I wanted to make sure that we reiterated the team that is also staffing the project. So Doc, as perfect timing, if you could give, not that you have to run down everybody's name, but a general sense of how many people are dedicated to that project team for the railcar replacement and the general competencies by division.
Yeah, so we have, and we created about 2 years ago a rail car project replacement team. That team is a shared team between Mike Schipper's group and my group. In the operations division, the fleet management department is the group who purchases, they're the engineers who purchase vehicles or things with wheels. Mike's group are the engineers who fix bridges and those nature. So our fleet management department has an assigned project manager. It's Brian Moore. Brian Moore comes through us with years of success in this organization. Prior to coming to operations, he worked for Mike Schipper, and he was the project controls manager for the Euclid Corridor program, $200 million program that was brought in time, on budget, and on schedule. And so Brian is the project manager for the program. Brian has a deputy project manager who is Casey Blaze, who you met. Casey Blaze is the is the former equipment manager, so the vehicle maintenance manager for the current rail district. And we've taken that individual off his job to be 100% on this job of purchasing the new rail cars, and we've backfilled his role with another person. The next tree comes to two areas. We have a vehicle engineer who works in fleet management, who is sort of the oversight person for the vehicle production, and we have Joe Schaefer is there. Joe Schaefer, who is the construction engineer for all of the construction items. So when we have to put in a switch inside of the port, when we have to change the shop and make any of those modifications, Joe Schaefer and the engineers work closely with the project managers to assist. And then there's a team of people. We have Brian Moore has two individuals who are hired to manage the project controls. That's all of the documentation needed. We know the federal government, who's a major participant here, will be coming to audit all of the documents and those natures, things of that nature. And so there's a team, a core team of about 10 people, but an expansive team of other individuals who are there. And our commitment to that team is that should they need resources, we will make those resources available. We recognize that this is the largest project that our agency will have completed. The total project will be over $390 million. Up to this point, the $200 million project of the Euclid Corridor was the largest, and so they have the support.
Thanks, Doc. Just wanted to make sure that we had that reiteration. It's a lot of people that are kind of staffing this behind the scenes, and they're doing a great job thus far. I expect to have the same success going forward. Also wanted to make sure that we talked about the 4-ish, you want to say 3.96, I believe, Raj, is the correct percentage? Okay, of the request that's coming before you today. The idea is that we will have change orders, right, because of the market and because of the demand that's going on in transportation. Although we cannot foresee exactly what that will entail over the next few years, we do anticipate coming back to you when we hit a certain threshold. And as explained, that could be 4 million, that could be 5, it could be less. You'll have that transparency through the reporting every month and every quarter. But the idea also was to not come to you with the 10%, which was the standard for the project, because we just felt uncomfortable as a body because it is such a large project, and we didn't want to offer $16 million in change order authority on the table for the board. We wanted to be able to cut that down so that we could increase the transparency and you knew exactly what was going on. As I mentioned, we can't promise that this will be the one and only change order request that comes before you, but within a 7-year period or less, we anticipate to be able to let you know when that number is starting to kind of creep a little bit. But we wanted to take it in bite-sized chunks because we do understand that we are new at this, so to speak, within the agency, and that way we have a little bit of a tighter control on what our expenditures are, since we'll be looking at it in a $6 million figure or 6.5 versus a 16.
All right, any board members? Anything? All right, next.
That's it. That completes our presentation.
That's it?
Yeah.
We have a motion?
Motion, oh, does someone, oh, go ahead.
And I just wanted to say, I mean, Tony mentioned it and several of you mentioned it. I think when this came in front of internal audit, just having some transparency as we move along and not just finding out if, well, I hope that doesn't happen, that we hit a maximum. We wanted to have that periodic update for the entire board, and I know we wanted to add it to a quarterly bullet point on our internal audit meeting, so there'd be a lot of touch points along the way. If for some reason the policy needs to be tweaked up or down, whatever that might be, we're sort of getting information real time, and I thought that was important to the committee, and I think management was very open to that.
All right, motion is on the floor
Motion.
and seconded. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Raj, we didn't get to hear from you. Executive session has been requested. Is there a motion?
Oh, I think we have to, was it for?
Is that right? Yes. Yes, to consider appointment public official. Is there a motion?
Motion, Welch.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. I'll call the roll.
All right, Mayor Biassiata is not here. Mr. Joyce? Mayor Kumar?
Yes.
President Lucas?
Yes.
Ms. Mersman?
Yes.
Ms. Moss?
Yes.
Mr. Sleesman?
Yes.
Mayor Weiss?
Yes.
And Ms. Welch?
Yes.
You have 8 ayes and none opposed.
All right. I understand that there will be a need for a motion after we are executive session, so we're inviting people to remain. We will go into the executive room and we will name who you want to come in. I don't like that, though. All right, we're going to stay in here, and she will read who's to stay, and the rest of you, if you'll be kind enough to exit to the hallway, and we'll call you when it's time to come back.
Thank you, Reverend Lucas. The following folks are to remain in this
So we're, okay.
City.
Yeah. No, I heard that for
Like
sure.
I said, I'm not the person who always say that. I'm sitting on the train and police come in, they are not gonna bother me.
Right. Yeah.
I'm old white lady.
It's a great,
And we want you to make sure you put it on your desk, framed and.
Okay. No, we're streaming, so just. Okay, we get your okay, the microphone. Okay.
I move we exit executive session.
Second?
you have a second?
Second.
Okay.
All right,
Mr.
call the
Joyce?
roll.
Mr. Joyce? Yes. Mayor Kumar?
Yes.
President Lucas?
Yes.
Ms. Mersman?
Yes.
Ms. Moss?
Yes.
Mr. Sleesman?
Yes.
Mayor Weiss?
Yes.
And Ms. Welch?
Yes.
You have 8 ayes and none opposed.
All right, thank you very much. After discussion today, we are now going to have a next meeting prior to the board meeting. We'll have a session, and then we will have the board meeting, and any votes will be taken at that time. If there's no other business, we have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second Welch.
Second. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Thank you very much. Consider yourselves adjourned, because I have to stay here for a meeting.